So last week we've seen that we can do a lot of different kind of applications that are playing with. If we'd like to put different components in one place, we need to use some panels, because panels are containers which can have some components in them. And then there were a couple of exercises that are available online. You can have a look at these. I mean, probably you did already. But what I wanted to show is that we can just do something more interesting. Like we can do some kind of applications that do things kind of interesting. Now the thing is that we have this application that is going, that I told you is try to find a hidden number. So when you start this like a game, you have to guess what number it is, and then this is the type of application. So it asks you to enter a number between 0 and 100, and then if you type whatever frequency and press enter, it tells you based on you try to find what number it is, the hidden number that you're trying to guess what it is. So it tells me that 50 is too small, and then if I don't know, go for 75, it's too small, and I don't know, 92, I'm going to check. If you click on check or this, is going to do the same thing. So 92 is too big, so it's between 75 and 92. I don't know, 80, 82, I don't know. Alright, no, let's put 82. 82 is too big, so it's between 75 and 82. And then what we can do now is, I don't know, 79. And it was a nice guess because it says congratulations, you found the hidden number. Now check one thing, I cannot even click here anymore, and the check is not there. Notice every time I put a number, the numbers of tries goes from to be 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. Now if I click on restart, 79 was the numbers. When I click on restart, it's going to enable these again, and then the number of tries is 0, and then if I try 79, it's not the number anymore, so it gives us a new number. And of course, well, we can have the same thing new here. It's just like the restart. It's going to check again, give me a new number, and then this is the same thing as this, and then there's this exit. Now how did I do this? That's what I'd like to show you, and you can basically, do the same. Now obviously this is a menu bar with the menu, and then a menu, two menu items, and one separator in the middle. So this is the menu, this is the menu items that I'm adding with a separator in between them in the exit. Now if it's the exit, this is the menu item that I just system.exit, and this new, it just calls this new game. Now what happens when a new game is done, this is when I click on the new game button. Now this is going to create a new instance of new game. What is this new game? It's just a subclass that you can find here. This is a subclass that is implementing an action listener. Why am I doing this? Because if you click here or click here, it's going to do the same thing. So that's why for me, what I did is that put the action that needs to be done when I create a new game in one place and call it in two different places. So if I'm having this new menu item, if I click on it, it's going to create a new item. And then there's another button, the button restart. If I'm just clicking on it, it's going to create a new instance of the new game. So the action is happening here, this action performed. So what is happening here? Okay, I just would like to maybe start small with here. Now I'm looking for the constructor of this hidden number. Why? Because this is what I'm using to count how many times the user tries the number. This is how I can get a random number between 0 and 100. In order for me to do that, I need to create a variable from this class random, and initialize it, and then from this variable I call the next int and give it a number. This number is going to be the maximum. It's going to be between 0 and that number. So this is going to give me a random number between 0 and 100. Now this is what is happening. I can just shorten this by putting this in one place by just removing this variable, and I can just do this. So I create a new instance that I just call the next int. It's like here what I'm doing. New instance variable and then call the set visible to be true. So I'm doing this in 2 steps. I'm just going to leave this so it can be, you have 2 ways to do things. So I'm doing this the first time I'm running the application, and I'm also doing it again when I click on a new game, because when I click on a new game, the hidden number, this is a variable that is going to be initialized again with a new number. Now what this thing is, well, I'm just going to remove it. It's an attention that we don't need. So that's the same thing basically. Now every time there's a new game, the number of tries is going to be back to 0, and this update number of tries, all it does is just put the label, put this. Well, I just wanted to do something that calls a method. I don't need that method, I can just put it here. And then the TA is for text area. Did you notice that this is not a text field because I have more than one line? And I change its color, and it can have more things in it. So this is a text area, and the text area is just like a text field, except that it has more lines. Has more lines, well, that means whenever I create a new game, I just empty the text field. The text field is going to be enabled, the button check is going to be enabled, and then the text field text is going to be set to empty. And then this is something interesting, request focus. Text field request focus, because notice now, if I'm here, or if I click on here, this doesn't check here. But as soon as I click on restart, you see the blinking comes back to the text field. This is how you can put the blinking there. So I don't have to click here to type a number. Basically I can just keep typing numbers, and then if I click on restart, it just keeps there. And if I click on check, for example, while there's a problem, and then I just can go back, and I don't need to click here. That's the main thing. So if I click on check now, you see it doesn't put me back here. So how can I do this? I can just now go to this here, and every time I have this check the number, I have this action here of the check number. After all this is done, I just would like to put the focus again. So even if I click on the button, the focus is going to go back there. Now just realize one thing here. So I just would like to, we'll deal with that later, but this is something we'll have to deal with. So if I run here, you see if I click on check and nothing happens, you see I have this thing that happens. Why? Because this is the get text that gives me an empty string that I'm trying to convert to an int. How can an empty string be an int? That's what this exception happens, number format exception, because it cannot convert the text to an int. An empty text is an empty text, it's not a number. So anyways, that's the thing. So every time I try to check, it creates some kind of exception. What I can do basically, I will deal with it later. Now I don't want to deal with it now because there are some different situations. But I can put an if it's empty, don't do anything. If it's empty, put 0 or skip or whatever. But there's a better way to deal with that. So the idea now, if I click on here, I press, put the numbers, and then I click on check. Even if I click on check, okay, I forgot. I wanted to. If I type here and click check, you see now it goes back here. Before, I didn't have this one. If I run, I press enter, it stays here because I was already here. But if I click on, I press a number and then click check, now the focus is here because I clicked here. It's not there. So if I'd like to type a number, I need to click here first and type the number. So that this request focus is just going to allow me to like put the cursor in that text field. So that's what I'm doing basically here. Every time I create a new one. Now, every time I click on check or press enter, this is what happens. I increment the number of trials and update the number of trials. Basically, this just displays it. And then I get the number and check if the number is equal to the hidden number that I'm looking for. If it is, I'm going to, in the text area, set the text to be congratulations, blah, blah, blah. You have found the hidden number, this thing. And then check this. \n means new line. And that's, I'm going back to the line. And then I'm displaying the number of tries was, and tells me how many times I tried. And then it goes back to the line. And then it gets the text that was there before. That's how I can keep the text that was there before and add just a new one every time on the top. Because as you have noticed, if I run, if I type something, oh, good, that was a lucky guess. I found it already. So let's try another one. Now let's say 50, it's too small. Now 75, you see, it keeps what was before and adds on top of it. So that's why if it's not the hidden number, if it's smaller or bigger, it's just going to get that number that I just entered, 75 for example, and then is too big, and then go back to the line and then add what was there before, which means this here. So that's why every time I type something, it is going to keep what was before. If I click on restart, it's going to put this text area to be empty, so it's going to erase everything. And the number of tries also goes back to 0. So this is how I can just populate the text area and add more things to it. Now, let's have a look at the, no, I lost it. The layout. Now, what did I use to get this thing like here? Let's have a look at it. Okay, so there's nothing here exceptional, but the layout here is border layout. So I have north, south, etc. But so I did something else. Set resizable to be false. Set resizable to be false means what? I cannot even resize it. So I'm fixing the size and I'm preventing the size to be changed. Now if you'd like to make the size bigger or smaller, I'm not allowing you to. If I want you to allow you, just remove this, because by default it's allowed. The resizable is true. So it's by default it's just going to change force. Because yeah, if you can make it true, it's just going to be allowing you to make the change as well. But by default it's already true. So you don't have to put this true here. Now set resizable to false means I don't want to allow you to change the size. Now what is going to happen is that when I'm initializing the things here, and then this is the panel center, and check what I'm doing here. I'm creating some fonts, because you noticed maybe that this is kind of a font size that is smaller than this. You see the text here is much bigger, and this one is even much bigger than the others, and this one is smaller. So you can play with the size by creating some fonts. So the fonts, now I just created 3 of them because I would like to have just the 3, but all of them I give them a name, the Arial or whatever name of the font is. And if you don't know what are the names or what are the options that you have, just open Microsoft Word, for example. And then the list of fonts that you have, because these are the ones that are installed on your system, so you can be able to use them. Yes?
Can I use the notepad? Because it also has fonts.
It does. Notepad. Does it? Yeah, maybe it does. Yeah, right. Format, fonts, yeah. I mean, I'm using this only to get the names. But if you know the name, you just can type it. For example, I know that there's this Times New Roman. Times New Roman. Now this is Roman. This is a type. Now, if I'm just going to type this here, how this is the bold large. So which one is the bold large? I don't know which one it is. It's going to be used in the label number. So you see this font has changed a bit. Did you notice? And this one as well, because it's Times New Roman here. To prove to you that this is the one that changes, I'm going to make it 24. So I'm just going to be even bigger. So you can see now this is very big. So that's the one. And then, yeah, maybe it's going to be faster than this one. So now you can just see, for example, you'd like to try this. Okay, try it. Consolas. Okay, let's try Consolas. I'm just going to try that. And then if I run, this is going to be the type of font, whatever. Or maybe what I'm going to do, just leave it as it was, and this one. This is the font larger. I don't know where, I don't remember where I used it. But anyways, you can play with the fonts here. But what I would like to show you though, is that you need the font name, and then this number is the size, the number of points that you can use. And this here is kind of interesting. This is the style. Now, the style can be bold or italic. And what kind of styles do I have? If I'd like to apply more than one, well, let's just see font dot, and you can see you have different styles that you can use. But the one that you use a lot is bold, italic, and I was expecting maybe underline, but I'm not seeing it. All right, so it's not available maybe. But what if I would like to have bold and italic at the same time? I would like to have it bold and italic. So I'm going just to put this or font dot italic. Now this means this and this at the same time. Now if I run, you're going to see that this text now is italic and bold. If I remove one of them, it will be just now italic, not being bold. But if I want them to be both, I can just use this or, the symbol of the or, and then you can see all of these are now. So anyways, just for the sake, I'm just going to leave it like this so you can have an idea when you have a look at the code. Now these are the fonts, and now these are variables. I just prepare them and then I use them in different places. Like for example, the label number. Which one is the label number? Oh, it's not running anymore. So which one is the label number? This is the one that has enter a number between 0 and 100. You see? So this is the label number. And there's also another thing that I wanted to do basically here, but it doesn't. This one doesn't make sense here, but check the number here. Did you realize that the text is not here on the left, but it's centered? Every time I press the numbers, it's in the center, not on the right or on the left. By default, it's to the left, right? Now I can change that by setting the horizontal alignment to make it center. So this means that this text field is going to be center, and I'm setting the fold to be very large and the action listener or that if I press enter on this text field, it's going to call the check number. And I have the text area. Well, the text area basically have to specify number of columns, number of rows. Like here, text area, if you give it two numbers, it's number of rows and number of columns. You can also put the text, number of rows, columns, whatever. And so this is the same thing. And editable is false because I don't want people to change it. Because if I type something here, I don't want someone to come here and delete it. That's why I made it editable to be false. And I'm setting the background to some color. And check this. I'm not using any color. I'm using a specific color with some kind of numbers. So what are those numbers? Well, let me show you something. These are RGB colors. Now, with RGB colors, I can just have this some kind of numbers. So let's see if you can have, if you like some kind of a number of like some kind of a color, and you'd like to find, okay, what are the numbers for that? Just select the color, and then you get, okay, you put 255 of red, 255 of green, and 153 of blue. It gives you this color. And you'd like to change it a bit or whatever. I think this is the one that I chose. 255, 229, and 204, yes. So it gives me this color. So let's change it for this one. So 255, 204, 204. If I do something like this, now the color is going to be changed to this. And this font larger is the one that is going to be used here. That's why actually it shows this console as now. It was Arial. Arial what had a good size. That's what the size was based also on the size of the font. So you can have an idea about these things. So if you like some kind of color, you can find some tool like this that is going just to show you the colors, and then you can just put the numbers. Or if you don't want to, you can use the one that we've been using so far by the color dot, and then you can only use like whatever the color you would like to select, and this is going just to work. However, now if you'd like to have more control, you could just use these RGB numbers. R for red, G for green, B for blue. And if you use control space to get, so you see it gives you the different constructors, but the one that we're using here is the RGB. There are others. I don't want to go into these discussions, but you can just Google them and you can find some interesting things about them. So I prepared those, and I put them all in a panel. So this label number, text field number, text area are all in a panel that are called panel center. The panel center, I need to run it again. This is all these, and these are all in a panel, and they are in a flow layout. And then there's another panel, the panel south. This is the one that I put this here. This one kind of a little bit funny. I put the buttons, and then there's a panel for the buttons. This panel I put it in grid layout because I wanted these two to be close to each other while these ones to be far from each other, the label. So that's why I put these into a panel with the grid layout of one row, two columns. So one row, two columns. So this is where the panel is. And I added these two buttons. And this trial here, number of tries, etc., is going to be in this panel south. This panel south with the label trial number, this is the first thing that's going to be in. This is the label. And then the next thing is the panel buttons, this panel here. And the flow layout is that I make this, would give it some kind of alignment. Because flow layout, you can also specify what kind of alignment you want it to be. Because by default it's centered, but I would like it to be to the right. So that's why I put this to be to the right. But it's not here because I said that the space should be 75, which means It's 75, then puts the panel, then another 75, then puts the label. That's what's giving me some kind of spacing between them. If I increase or decrease the spacing, then I'm going to see a shorter, the space is going to decrease, like here, to get closer, or increase by pushing them far from each other, but actually it's a bit too far. So they're going to be far from each other a bit. But that's just something that I was trying. And you can do whatever you want, everything is okay. I mean, anything is fine. So then I put this menu bar in the north, the panel center, let me just write again. So the menu bar in the north, the panel center which contains these, this is the panel center that I put it in the center, and this is the panel south in the south. And that's how I designed this small application. But we can improve this. For example, if I try so many times and I did not find it, after 10 times it will just stop, for example, and tell me, okay, you tried enough, and the number was this. You can do this kind of things, or you can just change the display so it will display them. For example, now the number should be between this and this, so it tries to tell me, okay, which one is which when I try to help me. For example, if I just restart, I put 50, and then okay, 50 is too small, 75 too small, I don't know, 75, let's say 87, still too small, 95, too small, 99, okay, that's not what I was looking for. Let's restart. 50, too big. Okay, 25, 25 I meant, too big. Okay, 12, too big. All right, 6, all right, 3. I'm just okay, it was 0. I'm trying to see something in between. Too big. Okay, 25, 12, 6, 3, 1. I'm not able to find some kind of good example. Too big, 25. You notice now that the numbers are kind of close to each other, right? 50s. Now every time I'm just restarting, it still shows to be closer. Too big. Okay, still too big. Too big. Too big again. Again, this is the same number. Did you realize that? So it's not this randomness. Seem to be okay. Now it's too small. Good. 2, too small. 50, too small. Okay, 70. Now something is more interesting. Say, for example, now when I put 2, it was too small, or 50 is too small. 75 is too big. You can maybe show me that the number should be now between 50 and 75, so I can know which one. So I don't do, for example, something like 85. Well, of course, 85 is too big. 75 was already big enough. Now we put more bigger. Well, we want to get closer. So you can suggest some things. I'm just trying to give you some hints how to improve this game to make it even more interesting. But that's it for this thing. Any questions regarding this? Yes.
When you write font bold,
Like this with the italic?
you write or.
Yeah, it's like an or. Yeah, it is an or actually.
Or just write and. Because how just.
Well, this is how it works. Because of the way that this is, with this, these are some kind of operators, like binary operators that they're going to be working with these numbers. So see, this is 2, this is 1. Now this 2 and 1, you have to look at them at the binary, the way they are done in binary, and would like to have these two. It's like some kind of bits. I don't want to get into this, but it works with or, not and. If you'd like to know why, come to my office. It's some more detailed discussion that I don't want to have now. Yes. With or without the phone? So I'm counting. All right. Any questions regarding these? So my advice to you, now you can do whatever you want. Basically, you can create a lot of different kind of applications. So try to come up with those applications, whatever you'd like to do. Now, I'd like to show you some other things that you can do though. Now for the action listeners so far, we've been using only this, like this action listener, which is when you press on something. But what if I'd like to use the mouse? If the mouse is there, is clicked on or not, or there's some other type of listener that I would like you to just to know for now, like this mouse. Hold on. Mouse listener. Now, what is a mouse listener? Okay. Now, the mouse listener, it will just have. Let's see I'd like to implement the methods. See, these are the type of actions that you can have with a mouse listener. If the mouse is clicked on something, you can just get some action. If the mouse is pressed or released, or mouse entered something, or mouse exited something. Now, I just would like to show you what these are doing. Now, obviously, these are not good here because I would like to give them like a specific place where to be in. But you know what? Let's just do that. I'm just going to do this. Let's cancel this mouse listener. I'm just going to create a private class, which is my mouse listener, that implements this mouse listener. Now, this now should implement all these things. So now I just would like to do something like this. This is mouse clicked, mouse pressed, mouse released. You know what's the difference between these? Mouse clicked, mouse pressed, mouse released. Mouse entered, I'm going to explain, it's kind of different from the others, but mouse clicked means just I clicked. I did this. That's a click. But this click can be looked at in two parts. The first part is I press the button. The second part, I release the button. That's what makes a click. But even if I'd like just when I press the button something happens, before even I release it, this is the mouse pressed. So that means if I press on something and I keep pressed, the action is already gone. But if it was clicked, I have not clicked yet, I need to release it so I can be clicked. And the same thing with this release. This is kind of useful if you'd like to do some kind of drag and drop. If you drag, that means you click, and then you drag it, and then you release, you drop. That's the type of things. And the click, if you don't care about this mouse pressed or released, you just want to, if it's clicked on it. And the mouse enter means if I'm here, let's say, if I'm here, now the mouse has entered the text field, or now the mouse has entered the text area, or the mouse has entered this. So if I would like to do something, if the mouse is inside here, something should happen, or the mouse is outside, that's the exit. The mouse exited. But if I'm inside here, I need to do something, the mouse is outside, something should happen. So I'm going to show you something funny. For example, this mouse listener, every time, I'll just put some mouse click these things. So they're going to generate exceptions, but I'd like to show these exceptions because I'm going to put them into the text area, let's say, for example. So this text area results set no, so it sets it's add mouse listener, and I'm going to add this new my mouse listener, which means now this adds my mouse listener. That means if I'm here, if I'm clicking, I'm pressing, something is going to happen. So check this out. Now of course nothing is going to show. I'm going to see just exceptions here, because you see I'm just seeing exceptions. Mouse entered, and then there was actually more than that. I just will, instead of seeing exceptions, I'm just going to put this system without the print lines, so it will be much smaller messages. Alright, so I'm just going to copy this, paste it here. So I'm not going to see these long exception messages, but just now notice what is going to happen. Mouse has entered, mouse exited. It's entered, it exited, because it's all watching what happens to the text area. Now I'm inside, I'd like to click. Now check what happens. I pressed, I released, and there was a click. So all these three together happened. But if I just pressed, I have not released yet. Once I release, and it became a click. So it depends on what I'd like to do. I'd like to just manage the click, then this pressed and release, I'm not going to check them. If I'm interested in one of them, for example, I'm not interested in those release and pressed, I'm just going to not implement them. I just leave them empty. So this mouse pressed or mouse released, I don't care about them. What I'm interested in are just the, if it's clicked or not clicked. So now I'm inside, I'm outside, I can see that entered and exited, but if I click, I'm going to only see click, and the others, they're not going to be available. So I can do some things like that with this mouse listener. We have other type of listeners. We have like Windows listener. If I'd like to window, if I put it back and put it back up, or iconify it, shorten it, if the size changed, I can do a lot of different kind of actions that can happen. But this is just a small introduction to those things. We'll talk more about those in the future, inshallah. So I think it's enough. Let's stop this video here so it doesn't put too many topics on them.